Hello, beautiful women of the Vision Builders community. I'm just opening us up on my phone to make sure we're live, and we are live. Welcome back. Welcome back. Do you know the first thing I thought? Welcome, Sally Ann. I'm going to introduce you properly in just a minute, but one of the first things that I thought as we came on video together after the interview that I did with Delicia this morning was we're all grey-haired women, silver-haired women. And like I want to go into this in a minute because I think it's a really interesting thing that we're seeing more and more and more of online. And there's a whole like process and journey that I went into during COVID to stop dyeing my hair and go grey. So I'm going to be interested to hear your story, but we'll come back there if you're keen to share it. So for those of you that catch us live tonight, I hope you'll take a minute to say hello. Please let us know you're here. Let us know where you're tuning in from. Sally Ann and I are both in Victoria in Australia, which is a unique experience for me because this is quite a global community of interviews that are going on inside this group. But as you come in and tune in to this interview, my invitation, you know what I'm going to say, my invitation is to turn off all the distractions. For those of us in Australia, it's evening. I know it's a busy time, but maybe shut the door. Hopefully you've got a cup of tea on hand or something to drink and just sit and relax and lean in and listen. The gift of holding space for people's stories is the greatest gift we can give each other as women. And as we give, so we receive. And this is an art that we all get to practice more of because in this terribly distracted world, it's easy to think, I just want that bit and that bit and that bit. And we take snippets from everywhere, but there's a richness in tuning into a whole story that's really, really special. So that's my invitation to you in this interview. So tonight we have with us Sally Ann Charnock, and Sally Ann is a holistic counsellor and Reiki healer, do you call it, or Reiki master, Reiki healer, and just sound healing. But the most exciting thing that I've just discovered is that along with her beautiful artwork, she's just opened her first art studio, which is very, very exciting. And I saw a gorgeous picture that you put up, I think it was today, of little blue flowers? It's
Yes.
one.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you so much for being with us. So what I want to do is just start our conversation by traveling back in time. And so if we can go back to who you were and where you were, because you weren't in Australia, where you were when you were launching yourself out of childhood, out of school and into womanhood, did you have a sense of what you wanted to do then?
Yes. I mean, I think I've always been really artistic deep down, but when I left school, I didn't really qualify for, I wasn't a high achiever. So I just sort of bumbled along for a bit. I did sort of a courses and I did this, that, and the other. I never really stuck at anything. And I think this is part of the essence of who I am, is that underneath I'm a creative, I'm an artist, I'm somebody that just likes to flow with the wind, that likes to express. And so where was I when I first started? I was someone who liked to express themselves. As a child, I did poetry. I now write poetry. I've also written a book during COVID. I haven't had it published yet. There's always a sticking point. But it's the essence of self-expression. And I'd say that is the strongest element of who I am. And that's kind of what I encourage women, because I work with women predominantly, but I kind of encourage that everybody just needs to have the courage to self-express. And so that's really the essence of, yes, who I am, I guess. Yeah.
I'm curious if were your parents artistic? What was their support or understanding of that part of your personality?
Yeah, no, my mother was neither of them are artistic. I think my father liked to think he was a bit of an actor, but he wasn't. He just liked to act and play around with the children. And any time that he could be a child self, he would be.
Yeah.
And my mother was very much like into design, and she had a beautiful home and she wore beautiful clothes, but she wasn't really artistic as in going out there and expressing herself. But in saying that, self-expression, she
Mm.
expressed herself in what she wore and how she presents herself to the world. So that's the interesting thing, Edwina, that people think that they may not be artistic, but even presenting to the world is a way of creating that presence, that essence of who you really are.
Yeah.
So there are influences where they didn't really encourage me. They just kind of thought it was, part of me growing up and expressing myself. And over the last kind of 10 years, the more I've got into being a creative, they kind of don't really understand me, as some parents don't. My father's now not with us, but they still appreciate what I do. They don't see it on my through my lens, through my eyes, but they do appreciate it. Yes.
So did you have a great art teacher? Was that part of what nurtured it, you think?
Self-taught, really.
Mm.
Yeah, so I have really just loved color all my life. And I think the part of the expressing with color comes into something which we may go into a bit more, which comes from something that is to do with grief. But in fact, the skills that I've learned have really been only over the last few years since COVID. In COVID, I did an art course, and it's just since then I've just been plodding away
Oh,
resiliently, going at my own steady pace, doing my own thing until today, where at the weekend I managed to open a studio. And at some stage, I might do some teaching in it, but for now, I'm playing with me, just being creative.
oh, how fabulous. So you weren't working as an artist prior to COVID?
No,
Wow.
yeah, so it's really new. And so the fact that I've actually sold some of my work has been a real encouragement, so far. It's like you can self-express, and as long as you're, really authentic, and that word's used a lot, but really authentic to who you are and your inner self,
Yeah.
and that shines through, and that's what people love, and that's how I've managed to sell a few pieces already. So it's very exciting.
Oh, it is exciting. And I agree that there are so many different ways of being creative. Um, I had a flower farm for some years, and I just putting together flowers. I mean, we had not just I had about 100 roses in my private garden, but we had proteas and leucadendrons, and doing that was just I did that for about 7 years. Was the most amazing creative outlet, and I did flowers for hotels and weddings, and
Mm.
we had little roadside stands dotted around the place and near our school, and I did fairs and fetes, and it was blissful.
Sounds blissful.
Yeah,
Sounds wonderful.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was. But I never thought of myself as artistic ever.
Isn't that interesting?
No, it's not. We get this kind of view, and an artist is somebody who can draw or paint or
Mm.
act or sing on a stage. I think that's
Yeah.
kind of the narrow view of what being artistic is. But there are people that do that through their food preparation and cooking and the way they dress,
Yeah.
like all sorts of different things. Mhm.
That's what I mean, I had a real sticking point about calling myself an artist
Yeah,
because I thought that really defines it as what people's
yeah,
thoughts are about a painter, for example. But now I claim it because I've met so many artists that do different things. And I think that's the beauty, the more that you can self-express and show that creative side, then in my opinion, everybody's creative.
yeah.
And so there's lots of different kind of artists out there. which is kind of cool.
Yeah. And I will never forget reading, it was Brene Brown. This is the second time I quoted her today. She said, unexpressed creativity masticizes in the body. Have you heard her
Yeah.
say that?
Yes, I love Brené Brown. Yeah, and I totally agree with that quote. And she has some amazing quotes that just get it absolutely spot on.
Yeah. I do vision boards with women, and it's like if you need some words, just Google Brene Brown quotes, and she's got you covered for everything.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. She is
So
brilliant.
when you left school, you like what was your first sort of work beyond you?
I actually did secretarial work, so I did kind of that, because I didn't know what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And then I went into my father's business, and he had like in England quick printing businesses, and I learned the ropes. I learned how to manage shops from an early age and be working within the business, so with the printers, with the customers, and so that face to face with customers is always part of my life and has been a really good thing all the way through. And then when after working there, I then went on to have children, and I've got 4 children. And through the years of bringing them up, I actually always worked part-time, but only little jobs here and there. And in that, I did interior design. I worked in shops. And I learned more about, the colorways and how to mix and match things. And then I did courses in display work, how to display things that are beautiful things. And so I went on shop. So retail has been my background, and I learned about presentation through that lens as a retail person, and also listening to customers about the feedback about what they liked in a certain display or how they like things. And you learn a lot when you listen. And I think for me, that's the absolute key. And then I went on to do women's circles and workshops and healing work. And one of the things that we now got out into the healing work was the energy of people in shops and stuff was quite negative and heavy. So I got into energy work, and I use that in everything that I do as well. So the energy is definitely within my paintings, and within all the work I do from them. And that's a very quick sort of cycle of my life. But yes.
But it's interesting the observation of negative energy in the shops and shopping.
Mm,
And I wonder if there's something tied there that is about shopping being a distraction from being unhappy in our lives.
yeah.
I feel like I notice myself when I'm feeling like like that sort of agitated energy. It's like I'll just got to go shopping and buy something.
Yeah.
I think it can become, and you can get in a real pattern of that. And then when you break the pattern, you sort of see it for what it is. But
Mm,
I,
yeah.
I it's not dissimilar to me walking to the fridge when I don't want to be typing an email. But we do things to distract ourselves, and shopping is, now that we've got online and Amazon shopping, it's another form of distraction from not wanting to be with ourselves sometimes.
Yes. And the interesting thing is when you're actually, if you take away that distraction and
Mm,
you're with yourself, and you dig deep,
yeah,
you actually do find your own self-expression and creativity. And if you stick with it, you can actually have so much fun creating within your own home,
yeah.
changing things around, being, just present with what's around you. And I think that's a very good key as well for people, to actually sort of pick up on the things that are in your home,
Yeah.
the colors that you like, that you resonate with, that make you feel good,
Yeah.
you know. Yeah. So there's a huge amount in what's actually around you, beside you, even in your bedroom where you sleep. Yes.
I want to talk about color, so we'll get there in a minute.
Yeah.
So you packed up your 4 children and left the UK, headed for Australia.
Yes.
What was the inspiration for leaving?
It was a time when the children were all very young in the UK, and I was, bringing them up on my own, and my husband was working on the outskirts of London. We lived just out of Reading at the time, so we lived around Oxfordshire and Reading, that sort of down south. The traveling was insane. He'd do an 8 hour drive, an 8 hour day of work, and then he'd be doing like up to 3 hours of driving. And he just wasn't seeing much of the children. He was a really hands-on father. And so we kind of just went, there must be a better life than this.
Mm.
Oh, why don't we go to the other side of the world and start an adventure? And it was pure madness in a way, but at the same time, it was, we had tried to go to Europe with his work for a year and it hadn't worked out. And so we wanted to give the children some experience of a different way of living.
Yeah.
And I think, we were lucky enough to do a foraging trip with the children. We came over for like 6 weeks and we just went to all across Australia, and we even nipped into New Zealand to see where we wanted to live.
Yeah.
We settled on Melbourne, and that was 22 years ago, and well, actually 23 now, because it was the January 2001. So it was an amazing time of our lives to do such an adventure with 4 young children, and all our friends in the UK thought we were absolutely mad. With 5 years gone, they all wanted to come over and live over here,
Yeah.
but it was too late for them. It was just too much of the children being at different time scales and schooling and stuff.
Mm.
So that was the essence, and really we took it on as an adventure. And our children, the four of them, just immediately dropped into being finding a way of dropping into be Australian. And within 2 years, we were citizens, and we've just never looked back. It's been an amazing transformation for all of my children, really. I think the hardest thing is knowing that relatives get old later on in life. But each individual family is their own unit. So I think that's what you do. You take your own family and you do what the family wants to do. And we just wanted to travel and give the children an opportunity to see kangaroos and to have kangaroos hopping around the garden, which we do at the moment where we live. That kind of amazing thing. Like I've been here 22, 23 years, and I just still love seeing the kangaroos hopping in the garden.
Well, I don't think you're mad, but I think you're incredibly courageous. I as a mum of four, and my dog's just going to have a party in the background. I hope he settles in a minute. Sorry, but as a mum of four, just envisaging that process of like the complete change with no family support around you, or not knowing anybody, or where you're going to work, or where the kids are going to go to school, or like, yeah, absolutely. So courageous. It's amazing. But yes, you've set your kids up to make some pretty bold choices, I imagine. So what did you do when you got here? You were still mostly an at-home mum. Were you working as
Yeah.
well?
Yes, I did some part-time. I let the children really settle in. And I think, because they were so young, I had for one term, I had 4 children in 4 different schools with all these sports. So I definitely didn't work during that period.
Yeah.
But I then, as soon as they were all settled and everybody was sort of at school, I went into working back in retail. Actually, I did some beauty stuff as well. I think I did party planning, at home so I could do it during school hours. And then I went back into retail. And yeah, I think I really stuck with the retail for quite a number of years until I left and did the healing work. And that was probably I've been out of retail probably 15 years, and I've dipped in the odd time, but yes, I've really been out of that now all that time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what inspired the change into counselling and reiki and sound healing and that journey?
Yeah, I think I realized, Edwina, that there was a different way of living. So, and again, it was an energetic thing for me. It was a feeling of, you know, not being grounded in who I was. And I think that the healing work was really inspired as to an option of exploring what that all meant. I mean, it's such a huge and diverse subject, spirituality in itself. And I delved into that in my own way, and then I just couldn't. I was like a sponge. I couldn't stop doing courses and self-development. And in 2011, I was just qualified as a holistic counselor. Really, I'd been a year and I'd been practicing some work. And my son, my eldest son, who was 21 at the time, went overseas. And unfortunately, he had a freak accident and ended up in a coma over in Italy and was in a coma for 5.5 months
Oh,
before he actually passed away over there. So that kind of just shattered this whole identity of who I was.
mm,
And if it wasn't for the counseling that I'd done and being able to be in nature, I don't think I'd be here today. And that healing work that I did and the actual journey of finding out who I was, we talked a little bit about, who you are as an essence. And I think until you have something that is so shattering and you don't know who you are. And I think each mother, excuse me, goes through something similar when their children leave home. Who am I? What is my identity? And when you have something so utterly it just breaks your entire life into shatters it into millions and millions of pieces. It's how do you start to find the grounding
mm,
to start your life again, knowing that you need to live for your own life and for your children, for your family, for my son Guy's friends, relatives, and that goes out and out and out.
yeah,
And I think, one of the things that I think is so amazing is that when my son passed away, he came to me as an energetic in
mm,
a way. And he said, I will come to you in rainbows and you will work in color, mum, and
mm,
everything will be okay. And goosebumps, that's what I do. That's what I did. I continued to work with color, and he has come to me always in rainbows, in colorways, in things. And I think that has been really the grounding that I've had. So it's been a spiritual world, but also grounding into, who I am as a person now, living now, as a woman now, with grey hair.
yeah. I do feel that having some sort of connection to spirit, some sort of connection to um, what happens after death with that soul, some connection to that, that it's not just a finite thing that doesn't just end and stop, has
Mm,
been that has really supported me to get through the death of family members and grief. And that beautiful message you receive reminds me, I've got a very dear friend who's clairvoyant, Lisa Jenkins, who my community know, but she channeled a letter from my sister, and we weren't even in touch at that stage. She hadn't been living here for about 11 years, and we weren't in touch. And she got a message from my sister that she sent me. Those little things, the comfort that that brings is
mm.
yeah, it makes a difference.
Yeah, it does. It really
Mm,
it makes you start to understand it a little bit more. I mean, how do you understand the death of any child, the
mm,
death of anybody that you love? How do you actually really understand it?
yeah,
And each of us are on our own journey with it.
yeah,
But I absolutely agree. If you're lucky enough to have a connection in spirit in any way, I think that really helps,
Yeah.
helps you to learn and understand a little bit more.
Yeah. So what, for women listening to this, there's my mother's going to be 90 this year, and death is part of the conversation that we get to have more, I believe, as women. Before we pressed record, I talked about how ill-equipped I was to deal with my sister's death, and how I wish that I'd been involved in more conversations around death, because I feel like I would have gone through that process with more grace. What, with the experience that you've had, so that was 12 years ago, I believe, you've just had an anniversary.
Yes.
What, in hindsight, what are the things that allowed you to come to the place that you are now?
Yeah. It's a great question, and I think it's something that I've worked on for these 12 years. One of the major things is that when it first happened, because he was in a coma for so long, and we found out that he actually was severely brain damaged after a second accident, which happened within the hospital. We had already sort of said goodbye to the son that we knew, and it was absolutely devastating. And then to go through his physical death. And one of the things that I said to myself is that I'm not going to stay in the hole of grief. Like I personally could not live in that dark, desolate hole of grief, as I call it. So from the very start, I encouraged all of my family, including my aging parents who didn't really adjust very well to their grandson dying, but I encouraged everybody to talk to each other, to express their feelings, to share stories, to make us laugh, to make us cry, to share in the burden of losing their siblings, losing our son. And that really, as a family unit, helped enormously. I also encouraged all of the children to, seek guidance through friends, through we offer them counselling sessions, properly not with me, obviously, but and we said, when you're lonely or when you need to remember Guy, talk about him, talk to your friends, mention him. And it was sort of that sense of there needs to be movement and flow in the grieving process. And I think this is important as well. As I'm talking now, the flow of the grieving is continuous. For me, I've learned, for me personally, that I will always have a broken heart, grief in my heart. But as you've got to know me a little and talked about the color and vibrancy of my life, I can do both. I can learn, and I've learned how to live a really good, vibrant, happy, joyful life, even with a broken heart. And it does take time, it does take practice, but it also takes this sense of wanting to live. Because in the end, Edwina, life is so short that what we need to is really maximize the experience that we hold, that we have and that we share with others. And I think the sharing, and this is why stories are so good, because when you listen to women's stories, when I was running the women's circles, the stories that are shared heal. Everybody heals from knowing they're not alone. And wise women coming together is the most powerful thing, and us grey hairs coming together. And I actually embrace my grey hair. I've been blonde all my life, and then I've just loved my grey hair. And I think that's what we need to do, is just keep honoring the wisdom and the sharing and the stories, and encourage our children and our children's children to keep doing that.
Yeah.
And that's what living is.
Yeah. And the uniqueness of our stories, the differences, this is the in the interview that I did with Alicia this morning, it was she's, you know, like a very, very strong woman in leadership in the military and in the, you know, like in a very different world. But just that, you know, difficulty in feeling judged by women who perhaps are at-home mums or much softer and quieter in their disposition and personalities. And, you know, we're so quick to judge and criticize if somebody wears different clothes, or for mothers that work and mothers that don't, and people that have children and those that don't. And, you know, there's always the next box to put somebody in.
Yeah.
And the more that we can just lean into each other's stories and fall in love with the differences. We can do this in fiction, you know, we do it in movies and in books, and we make all sorts of things permissible and fabulous and curious. But then when it comes to real women in real life, for some reason, there's something in our programming that we want to put up walls and judge, and it's, you know, this is the damage that's caused. So I think as wise women in our communities,
Yes.
we
Yeah.
get to have this conversation a lot more. And yeah, you described it beautifully. The power of stories, whether we're about to give birth or whether we're, you know, all sorts of different things, moving countries, tuning into the stories of other women that have done that before you is enormously helpful.
Well, you know, we all know that life doesn't provide us with any manual or a book, and that each trauma that you go through and each exciting event, like giving birth to children, was the most wonderful for me experience ever. And I think that that the passing down of the knowledge, it is so much part of our role as well, you know, and this is why you know, I encourage every woman, no matter whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, to actually just share from that place of heart. And when you do that, it's like you open so many hearts. It's just the most amazing experience, I think. You know, and you were talking about that sort of sense of you know, resilience and empowerment. What I've realized is that all the women I've worked with as well is that you can be, like I'm wearing pink, and the soft and the feminine, but there's such a depth of strength and resilience within that. It's so empowering that all of us, no matter how soft we are and gentle and vulnerable, we have this incredible core strength that when women, you know, share that, ugh, we're a power to none, you know, like it's just incredible.
Yeah. I liken it to an oak tree. I feel like the older we get, the stronger our spine becomes, and you move into that place. I felt like, you know, once I got into my mid-40s, and it's like starting to care less and less about what other people think and more about what I think about me. And you know, I think this is the beautiful part of getting older, and there's lots of beautiful parts of getting older. So let's to hear the story of you deciding to. Did you ever dye your hair, or did you just go from natural to natural?
Oh yes. Oh no. My natural color was probably blonde when I was about in my early to mid-teens. But yes, I dyed my hair from probably mid-teens all the way through. And I also dyed it all sorts of colors. You know, in my 40s, I dyed this bit gray and I had turquoise underneath. That was fun. I've never been red, like or pink, but I've dyed it. But yeah, I was blonde for many years. And in fact, when I first had the starting of my gray coming through, I was quite excited. And I went, oh, I'm going to go gray. And then actually mine's darker at the back. And I went, I want to be this fabulous color, you know, but I'm just going with whatever it turns out to be like. And it goes short and it goes long, and it's just like a journey. And my hair and I have this great relationship where they don't know what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
And it is naturally curly. But sometimes I do blow dry it straight and it does look very different. So I think, you know, it's another thing to sort of self-expression. You know, do I want to be this older gray woman, you know? And yes, because it's fun, it's vibrant, it's sexy, it's like dynamic. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Your
all the above.
your camera's frozen. I can hear you beautifully. Oh, I think you're back.
Okay. Yeah.
You're back. Your camera.
Okay. Am I back?
Yeah, you are.
Right.
I could
Okay.
hear you perfectly. Um, yes,
Okay.
I can remember distinctly remember sitting in the car. We were driving up to Melbourne with my husband, and I said, you know, I'm sick. I was because I spent a lot of time on video, and I was like, I'm sick to death of dyeing my hair. Like I had to dye it every like almost 4 to 5 weeks because my hair is very, very dark, which it's still underneath. It still is a very, very dark brown. And I said, I think I just want to let it grow out. And,
Yeah.
my philosophies have always, like, I've eaten all organic and I'm very particular about the clothes that I wear and the fabrics. And it's been a whole philosophy. And yet I was dyeing my hair every 4 to 5 weeks. And I was like, I think I just want to, like, what do you think? And he was like, just go for it. If you want to do it, just go for it. And, so I was one of the great um, gang over. It seemed to be a bit of a worldwide thing over COVID, where people that just decided to let their hair go natural. And yeah, I not only am I much richer for it, I don't know if I see that money, but the amount of money I was spending every 4 or 5 weeks to get my hair done. And I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
It makes me so happy.
Looks great. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but I went on a real mission to look for examples of other women that were doing it, like absolutely rocking it. There's this whole movement on Instagram of silver
Yeah.
sisters. And so I just got this whole picture in my head of these amazing, divine women with grey hair. And I was like, yeah, that's
Yeah.
where I'm.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it's great. It's great. And I think, us embracing that, and you can go grey at any age as well. I mean, that's part of it, but us embracing that helps our children. And, I mean, my daughter's 35 now, and she's had all sorts of hairstyles and colors, but she just is encouraged to be natural, and she's just let her natural curl bounce back and her natural colors sort of in. And yes, she does that once in a while, but it's not nearly as much as she used to. And yeah, it's great. I love it.
So let's talk about color, the
Yeah.
role of color.
Yes.
Tell me what's the links? Like, how do you use this in your work or in your home, or what are your thoughts?
Um, yeah, so my inner world, this is what I feel, and my sense of colors is very much tied into my feelings.
Mm,
And I'm a very visual person, so when I dream or when I vision things, it's all in color. And one of the things that I'm really inspired by are the colors of nature. So I was brought up in the UK by the beach. So it's all the blues and the subtle colors of the greens mixed in, and those ocean. I mean, your earrings are just fantastic, by the way, at the moment. But those subtle colors that are all entwined within the waves of the ocean. And so that's a color wave to me. And then there's the earthiness of, and the Australian earthiness is very different to the UK green grass and hills. So it's really like my connection with earth and with nature. And that's where I get really inspired from.
mm,
Um, I've also done, as I said, a little bit of interior design. And again, nothing is kind of been learned on those courses. I've kind of picked up bits and pieces. So when I like something, I put it next to a colorway that I like, and it just works. It works in my eyes. And I've taken that through my home, and the feelings that you get when you walk in my home, there's a sense of um, calmness, but also that vibrancy. And I used to have a wall that was full of my watercolor paintings, and that's all gone now. And I've gone to um, a bedroom that is pure white with white curtains and off white. Everything's the off whites and the natural fibers.
mm,
And that feels like to me, after being in my studio, to walk back into my bedroom and sleep in a sense of peace and serenity and calmness.
mm.
That's very much part of my life as well. So for
Can you
me,
change that in winter? Because you're in a climate that's very hot in summer and very
yeah.
cold in winter. And I'm curious if you change that color in winter.
Well, this is a fairly new for me, that this one. So I haven't had a winter there yet, but I'm sure I will,
Mhm.
because one of the things I like to do in my home is spice up things, change things around. So I kind of do change my furniture and my fittings around in color bands. And I think that that gives me a sense of a new space. So I create rooms in spaces as well. And, I have a Bedouin tent, which is a huge tent.
Oh,
And that I decorated it in very vibrant fabrics hanging from everywhere, and colored cushions and everything. So you could feel that you were wrapped in this sumptuous sort of love. And then I'll take it all out and I'll just do a soft, gentle, light blues and stuff. So that it's moods for me that come in, it's feelings, it's kind of a sense of place that you want to be. It's whether you want to be nurtured,
yeah,
inspired, whether you want to walk into busyness,
yeah.
or you want to walk into calm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I I've got one there and I've got another one sitting on my desk right here. I became a big fan of salt lamps, and to be able to turn everything off when it's dark and just have that soft pink, it's kind of like a womb pink in my mind, and it just becomes a space that you I just like, it's like walking into a spa when you go and get a
Yeah.
massage or something and they use salt lamps. It's just that soft color. It's a real therapy. We can use color as therapy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I love color. I've got
yeah,
an
I can
orange
tell.
carpet and a green couch and
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
got a lot of color. Love it.
And I think if you love it and it works for you, that's what it's all about. It's not about what other people like or don't like, because everybody's sense of color is different as well, So it's just about what you like and you putting things together. And yeah, I think in my paintings now I'm starting to mix different colors. I've always mixed colors. I'm not a traditional sort of method painter. I just slap on different colors and see what I like, and then mix them and kind of just create the color that I want to feel that
Yeah.
is right for the moment. Yeah.
So with the artwork that you're doing and the holistic counselling and the Reiki and the sound healing and are you still doing women's circles as part of all of that? Is it part of your
I've taken some time off. I had to go back to the UK last year. And actually, I did 4 months traveling on my own, which was fantastic. So I decided to just not do any circles. So at the moment, I'm not doing circles. I will probably go back, but I'll go back and do maybe something more creative. So helping women to find their creativity and to be in that space of inwardness, so they can connect to their own sense of color and what they want to create.
Mm,
So and I have been doing healings like on and off, but now it's a matter of just when women want to come and see me. I don't promote that. I'm kind of in a transitional stage, which I love.
yeah.
So when I turned 60, which was last year, I decided to transition into claiming being an artist, claiming this wild free woman who could do what she wants to do, and then from that, teaching from that space. So I'm in the process of that all coming together, of taking that on. And I think women are starting to feel that from me now, my old clients and new people I'm meeting, and that's exciting. So I'm kind of in that transitional stage, yeah, of doing this.
I love these stories. One of my gorgeous clients sent me a video just a day or two ago of a woman who had retired. She's 67 and she went on a holiday and she came back and she's like, I don't think I can just stop. I think I've got another 12 years of work to do something. And she went back and did nursing and now she's working at 70 and she's just started in another career as a nurse. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
what's my next career? I wanted that.
Yeah. And I think that's the beauty, that we women can actually just decide, you know, at any stage what we're going to do next. Like, is it within our power to really just go, I want to do this, I want to try that, you know, I'm going to see, I'm going to have a different career to what I've always had.
And
You know,
bring this wealth of wisdom and compassion and just, you know, so much into the workforce if we, you know,
yeah,
re-enter into these care, particularly into these caring fields, but there's all sorts
yeah,
of things.
yeah.
You know, we could transform the world, I believe.
Yes, as women, I think we're well capable of doing it, and I think it's you know, it's just a time for us to really embrace who each of us are,
Mm,
and as we said many times, to share that, to share our qualities,
yeah,
you know, and
absolutely.
help other women.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll just, we'll finish up with just a couple of questions. What have you noticed robs you of creativity or dims your light? What are the things that pull you off course?
That's a great question and really quite profound. Um, just isolation is one. So if you stay too much on your own and you wallow
Mm,
in the past, there's a difference between accepting things and um, you know, reflecting back. And I'm a great believer, like I'm always looking at old photos and stuff, but I don't live in the past. I think the only place to really focus on is now and not too far in the future, because the future keeps changing so rapidly. So that's my thing, is just to be present with yourself. You know, that's a big one.
mm,
And be present with what you're trying to create. You know, like, what are you visioning? And I think when I don't think about what I'm visioning, that knocks me off course. So at the moment, I've visioned being an artist for a long time now, and I've visioned having a studio, and I have stuck from that. And when I get unstuck, it's usually you know, I can get into a binge habit of watching too much Netflix. I can get into a binge of having too much wine and enjoy myself and then feeling a bit ill afterwards. I think I get off course when I don't do yoga or exercise. And I think for me, it's a mixture of the variety with it in life that keeps me on path.
mm,
And if I'm lacking in one area, that unbalances me. So it's basically what suits you in your life. Some people prefer yoga, some people might run or do aerobics. But I think it's to have different things in your life that fill you up. Seeing
mm,
girlfriends.
mm,
When we're in COVID, we live out in the middle of nowhere, and my mental health just took a dive, like most people's, when you weren't connecting face to face. So I make sure that I see people, that I talk to people, um, and yeah, and that's definitely part of the kind of daily routine. I
mm,
get knocked off from course when I hide things away, when I don't share to my partner or my daughter or my sons. So that's an important part of you know, if you're in trouble, you need to share with a best friend, with partner, with your children, with your friends, your colleagues, anybody that can help you to take yourself out of that depth of where you could go, then I would recommend that's a really good thing to do. So yeah, there's quite a bit that can knock me off
mm,
and that has knocked me off. But
yeah,
I think part of the resilience for me is managing my time as
mm,
well.
mm. I I went on a downward spiral during COVID, and it was interesting to be more aware of the things that I used to pull me out. And one of the greatest things that I did was really implementing a meditation practice, because I talked about it and faked it for a long time before that. But I really implemented that, and that was absolutely life changing. Just that stillness,
Yeah,
managing my mind, so I become like a guardian of my mind. I don't let in the news, I don't let in all the ugliness that I can't do anything about, because I tend to go down spirals.
yeah, yeah,
um, and time in nature. Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
in nature. But
Well, I didn't actually mention that because I live here and sometimes you take it a bit for granted. But yes, the meditation nature. But I find that I meditate in all sorts of different ways. It's as long as there's stillness and I'm quiet, then that is very much keeps me on path as well.
yeah, beautiful. So, what is the best way for people to find you, to look at your work? Obviously, your beautiful artwork is on social media, as on Facebook or Instagram or both.
Yeah, I'm just starting to get on Instagram. So my Facebook is just Sally Ann Charnock. My Instagram is art.by Sally Ann. And yeah, I haven't built a website yet, but I've got an open studio for anybody that's in Victoria or Melbourne or in this area. This coming weekend is Saturday and Sunday, 10 till 4. And then, yeah, just connect with me anytime. And hopefully I'll be running some courses as well later on in the year.
We'll be waiting for that book, Sally Ann. I'm just saying.
Yes, just saying.
Good nudge.
Yeah, thank you for the
Another
nudge.
conversation. We'll have another conversation.
Yeah.
So much. Thank you so much for sharing Guy's story. I really appreciate that. I can't even imagine how challenging it is, and for you to have got to a place where you can share that with us is a true gift. So thank you for doing that and for all of your story. It's been a delight to meet you and to get to know you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Hello.
Beautiful women, that's it from us today. I will be back with another gorgeous story for you tomorrow. But in the meantime, that's it from us today. So much love. Thanks. Bye for now.